There's this woman 2 tables from us who just kept looking at us. And I'm like, what is she looking at? This is weird.
Oh
6
my
police
God.
cars pull up behind us at gunpoint.
Hello and welcome to Uncut, live from our studio in Dubai. The audio and visual podcast show that gives you exclusive scoop on our guests and hot topics including some of your favorite celebrities. And now, let the fun begin. Here's your host, S1.
Yes, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is for you. Welcome and welcome back to another episode. I'm super excited for today's episode. Again, we've been having amazing guests on the show recently, and today is another special one, I have to admit. A little different for you guys, but very interesting story. Our guest actually is joining us from the United States. He has launched a product that was recently named Time Magazine's 25 Best Products of CES 2020, and I can't wait to hear more about it. With no further delay, let's welcome EDWARDMADONGORERE.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate
How are you,
that.
brother?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, it's a good time.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, right?
Great word. Yeah, I was going to say interesting, but you know, trying to keep it upbeat.
I know. So what's happening is we have so much going on in the world right now. And I know you're very much involved with a few of these projects and things that are going on. First off, I want to understand how you're coping up with the situation at times like this right now.
Yeah.
What is your, daily routine right now?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? You know, when it first started, it was like, I got this under control. I'm going to create a routine. And then as time goes by, you're sort of like, all right, this routine is a little stale now.
Yeah.
I'm going from the bedroom to the living room, to the living room to the kitchen. And so it's a little weird.
You feel so unhealthy after a while, right? Like we generally have this, like my lifestyle is all about going out, and being active and doing things. And now we're just like, let's avoid the outside world as much as we can, right?
Pretty much, yeah. That's kind of been it. But it's been good, though. I think it's been, a lot of the people I've been talking to, it's been a good time to sort of reflect and just kind of get your mind right. I've already kind of said 2020 is canceled. Just get ready for 2021. So do as much work as you can. Just grind hard, get work done, and then 2021 be ready to launch with just a new kind of version of yourself.
All right. Well, that's one way of definitely looking at things, right? Like, tell us about. Because you had quite an international upbringing, right?
Yeah.
So you have lived in Africa for a couple of years before returning back to the U.S. You were back and forth, I think, between Africa and the U.S. And I just want to understand, like, how was that? Where were you exactly?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I grew up in New York, in Queens, and and my parents, are African parents, and so for me, growing up in New York was very kind of different. I felt very New York, right? And
Right.
I would meet some of my relatives who, spoke a different language and acted a certain way. And I was just like, I want to know what this is all about. So, it was an interesting time in my life. My parents had split up, and I had the option to either stay in the US with my mom or go to Africa and be in Zimbabwe. And I chose to go there mainly because I kind of wanted to know where I was from. I felt a little disconnected from who I really was. And in my mind, Africa was like what I saw on TV and cartoons as a kid, right? So I'm thinking, I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna see my giraffes, and I'm gonna get the lions everywhere. And then I get there, it's a city, and I'm like, wait a minute, we don't really portray Africa the way it really is, because this is actually like a really like nice place. And and then I get there, and I actually went to boarding school there for 4 years. Then I came back. So that's that was a little bit of that in the early days.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, were you disappointed in how Africa was portrayed? Because I personally had that experience when I went to certain countries, and I was like, I'm really disappointed how they, make us think of that country where it's really not like that,
Yeah. But totally. I mean, it was it was kind of a shock because you get there and, there's an airport and you're like, okay, I'm expecting, my whole expectation was I'm going to land on like a strip where it's going to be like, there's no road at the airport and
Yeah.
it's going to be people kind of, not really wearing clothes really, because that's what we see on TV and even in cartoons right now. I'm still young. So we get there and I remember, this driver picks us up and then we go to stayed in a hotel because, the place we're staying wasn't ready. So we go to the Sheraton Hotel. I'm like, this feels like I'm in New York.
Right?
I'm like, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be like. And it was a good
Yeah.
experience because you get to see that. And for me, I grown up in New York where it's very kind of melting pot, but going to Africa was really sort of like, wow, everyone who looks like me and doing something to some degree, whether they're doctors, lawyers, or it gave me the sort of like insight of like, we could really do a lot more than what I thought. In my mind, it was like, I'm going to either be a musician, ball player, you know what I mean? It's like, no, I could be all these other things because look at all these people that look like me that are doing that.
So obviously you've entered the business world and you've been doing quite a bit in that. Did you feel like it benefited you in any way? The traveling, getting outside, visiting different places. Did that benefit your business world at all?
Yeah, I believe so. I think, my mom had raised me in a way that to just be open to everyone. I remember even an example when I went to school in Zimbabwe, it was, a boarding school, right? All boys, black, and then I come to America, I come back and I'm now in New Hampshire. I'm at a school in this town called Goffstown. And I'm like one of maybe 3 black kids in this school, and it's all white. And it was a very different kind of just a kind of a culture shock in a way, but it was good because I got to sort of be able to be adaptable. And then when I transferred to another school, I got to really experience different cultures and different people. So I'm all for it. I think if you have the opportunity to be around different people, even if you can't travel, just be around people culturally different than you, I think it's super helpful because then when you do get into the business world, your customers are so diverse. If you think you have one type of customer, you're kidding yourself. Like that's how you really open up the marketplace, by getting to know other people, getting to know their cultures, being respectful to their cultures. And then at the same time, like trying to integrate all of those things into that, I think makes for an epic, epic company and an epic business model.
Super cool. I agree. It has to be, right. Right now, I know you worked for marketing at a company called Comcast. How was that experience? Like, what did you take away from that? Because marketing is a key base for any company, right? I think that's one of the most important departments in a company for me.
Yeah, and it was interesting. So Comcast for me was kind of an interesting time because I'll kind of back up, but I was supposed to go to college to design cars. I am an avid car lover. I love cars like to the core of me. And
what's your favorite car? I'm gonna interrupt you right there. What's your favorite car?
So many, man. Right now, I gotta say, it's the Koenigsegg Regera, man. It's like my car.
Nice.
But I also, I'm a big fan of Lambo. Lambo is probably my favorite brand of car in general. Just what
Italian
they do.
guys, yeah,
it's just
beautiful.
Yeah.
So sorry. Yeah, keep.
Nah, no worries. I could talk about cars all day. Don't get me started. So I was going to design cars, and then I got accepted. But at the time, financial, like opportunities weren't really there for me and my family. So I couldn't afford to go to the school anymore. So I had to sort of not go to college. And then I went to work at Comcast, and I was actually just picking up the phones, like, like, hey, thank you, my cable's not working. How can I help you? And I did that for a while, but then I recognized that there was, this marketing department was doing these pretty cool things, and I felt like, I don't know, something in my core felt like I could do that. And I remember when I applied for the job, and it was sort of interesting because a lot of people around me were like, I don't think that's going to work out. You didn't go to college for marketing. How is that going to play out? And I ended up getting the job, and I worked my way into it. And then I learned so much. And I think the one key thing that I learned was really, I learned it more when I was on the phones than I did in marketing, is that it's all about your customer. When they call you and they're talking to you and giving you feedback. And all that really played out when I started building the product with my co-founder, more than I think the actual doing marketing. It was really important for that.
Where did your passion for technology come from?
Oh man, when I was a kid, my mom would tell you I used to break things and put them back together. Remote control cars, back to cars. So I loved doing things like that. But it really came, I think, from music more than anything. I started making music out of high school. I had a little kind of a makeshift studio I had, and then I ended up finding a partner. We started making music together. And because of making music, I always wanted things to be sort of perfect. So I was like, I got to make a really dope album cover. So then I taught
Right.
myself Photoshop and Illustrator. I'm like, oh wait, I got to make sure that I need a website for this. So I taught myself how to code. I was like, oh wait, I got to make sure that
Right.
I do, we need to make a music video. So I'm like, okay, I got to teach myself how to make videos. And then that really got me obsessed with everything, in technology, because I always found that for every need I had, there was some kind of technological solution. I just had to learn it because I couldn't afford to pay someone to do it.
Right. And do you feel like you're someone who likes to be hands-on, like on your own projects? Like you want to be in on every part of it? Is that something you personally find yourself doing a lot?
I used to. I'll say that I used to. I think at one point I was very much like every bit of it had to have my OCD crazy. And then I
Yeah.
really realized later on as I was growing up that it's about kind of bringing people together. Everything takes a village, and I think when I started to bring people into the fold and really trust people and what they can do and their abilities, it really opened up a different world for me. So I think it's more about teams than anything. People you bring on having certain skills that you don't and allowing them to really be creative in their respect.
Right. Ed, you're the CEO of, like we said, one of the best products of CES 2020, which is the Moon Ultra Light, and which is a portable lighting device that you can hook on to several devices, right?
Yeah.
Where did the inspiration come from to create the product, and how did that all start?
So it's funny because I never thought I would be doing this at all, like zero. And at the time, I had a design and film company, and life was sort of just really kind of chill. My wife and I would kind of go out and have different events and parties and clubs and restaurants. And before getting into that, our son, we have a son who's autistic. And when we found out he had autism, it was really sort of kind of a profound moment for us where we were like, well, he's gonna get to the point where things make sense for him. But when he
Right.
gets to that point, how much are we really gonna remember to share with him? Because he's gonna ask the question, how did we get here? Wherever here is, right?
Mm,
And I became sort of obsessed with the idea that we should just capture everything, photos, videos, as much content as possible. So when he
wow.
asked like, oh, well, how did you do this? When was that? We could actually go and reference the time, because that's the beauty of this age we live in. You can upload everything
Yes.
to a cloud. So there's no excuse, right? So one night in this restaurant, it was really super dark, and we're trying to get a photo, a selfie of us, the typical before
Yeah,
dinner selfie.
of
And my
course.
wife was struggling to get the photo, so she sort of looked at me. I'm like, let's just eat, we'll figure it out later. And she's like, well, you're the cinematographer. Why don't you come up with something? And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. And I kid you not,
Yeah.
I took my phone and her phone and literally did one of these, like her light, my phone, and just held
Yeah.
them together like that, and then turned on the flashlight on one
Oh,
phone, and then was like, boom. And we
take
took
a picture.
and
Yeah.
we took a photo, and she was just like, wow, this is awesome, this is great. She was excited. The photo looked
Yeah.
amazing. And then before sitting down to eat, like getting ready to like eat our food, there's this woman 2 tables from us who just kept looking at us, and I'm like, what is she looking at? This is weird. And I thought nothing
Yeah.
of it. Halfway through dinner, I look up almost in slow motion. I see them fiddling with their phones. I'm like, what is she doing? And then they do the same exact thing. And I was like,
Oh.
what? I was like, wait a minute, we're not the only ones that have this issue. And then it hit me in that moment. I'm like, maybe I am supposed to solve this problem. And that was the beginning of it
Right.
right there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. No, I love the idea. I was like, this struggle we always have,
Yeah.
especially at like dinners, where
Yeah.
it's not properly lit and the ambiance is like really dark and
Yeah.
etc. So this is a perfect, solution for that problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's another very important thing in business is finding solutions to problems,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what you did. So tell us more about the Moon Ultralight and what makes it different from other lighting
Yeah, absolutely.
products.
For one, when I set out to sort of think of the idea of the product, the one thing that I love really like sleek, beautifully designed, products. I'm a fan of just beautiful design. So it was really important for me to make sure that the product was just beautifully executed and had a beautiful aesthetic. Because I feel a lot of times you get these products, like ring lights and just these big clunky things, and it's
Right.
just like no one wants to carry that. If you're thinking about, okay, tonight I'm going out, I'm going to get into my car, and then when I'm in there, I want to do a quick little live, and then when I get to the place I'm going to, I want to really like make sure you want to stand out with everything that's in your environment.
Right.
And I think big lights just don't make sense. Ours, we wanted to design it super small. So it's really small, beautifully designed. You can fit it onto any device and even off. And I actually have it right here. So it fits on my phone.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is you can just touch. So I can touch the back of the device, And then once it powers on, then you can actually start to adjust your lighting. So I can dim it down if I need to.
That's awesome.
I can brighten it up.
Yeah.
And if I want to, I can actually switch the temperature. So if I want it a little more warmer, I can go warm. If I want it a little more cooler, I can go cool. And that's great because think about the time you've been in a group shot with somebody trying to take a selfie and it's you, maybe 2 other people, but you got different skin tones. So how do you make sure that everyone looks really good? Someone's not washed out. You can really adjust and get it right.
You can adjust that.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And then the last thing too is that because it's rechargeable and it's super smart in other ways, but you can take it off your phone. That was the whole idea, is being able to take it off and get real creative. Because sometimes you're like, I want the light on this side, but my phone here. Or I'm a big foodie, so I love eating food and taking pictures of my food.
Right.
Sometimes you want to get that shot, and using your flash and going, it just doesn't work. So having this and popping it over your food or any other kind of shot you're trying to take, put your phone over it, boom, get back to eating.
Plus, right, like having the phone light is generally a white light, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
And then you have that warm color. So for that's so practical because you can always adjust and, which you don't have on just a normal phone light.
Correct.
And then for the selfie option, that's obviously, and it's so sleek, like it's so small. I love the size of it.
Yeah.
So what do they retail at? Like what is how much do they retail at?
So they're $50 at the moment, $50. So you can get it online on our website. We're actually going to be working on international and, getting to some of your areas pretty soon this holiday season, which is going to be exciting for us. So we're working on that right now.
Yeah. Would love to actually receive it and try it out, but I think the future of this can only get better because you can look how small that is, right?
Correct.
Compared to those big ring lights that you were talking about.
Correct.
And those, I've seen so many. We tried so many.
Yeah.
You buy them and then you just stack them in some drawer, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think is the future for these lights? Do you think we're gonna, have them more integrated into phones, or do you think these gadgets will always, have a future? What do you think?
I think there'll always be a future, right? It's almost like cameras. I mean, think about the DSLR cameras, right? Mirrorless. We've gotten to the point where, like, I have one of these right now, the ZV-1, for example, great vlog camera, right? But there's no light option. So the thing with a lot of these lights is they're thinking about the phone, but we're thinking about the creator and the content, the person who's really trying to create beautiful, images. So we're not limited. A lot of these lights, even with the phone, if they integrate it into a phone, which most of them will never do it, but if, let's say they do that, you still can't take it off and then be able to really get creative with it and shape it. Like I always use this when I'm doing my vlog. You can actually pop it on the screen and actually have it onto the screen so that you can actually have lighting when you're doing sort of vlog style with a camera. So I think, there'll always be a place for lighting, and it's sort of really necessary. If you think about every movie you've ever watched, they always say, lights, camera, action, right? And there's a good reason for that.
No, 100%. Every business faces ups and highs and lows and ups and downs.
Yeah.
What was one struggle that you faced? What were some of the issues that you had to face with this? This product.
Even before the product, just the idea of when I first started the project, and I was already working on my old company. And I realized very quickly, you have to really go all in. I think the biggest struggle for me was when I wanted to make the product, I looked online. I wanted to find somebody who had done what I'm about to embark on that looked like me. I wanted somebody who could understand my background, who could understand a little bit about how I think, and speaks the way I speak. Comes from neighborhoods I've grown up in and people that I know. Because I think sometimes that's helpful to inspire us and also to get us kind of feeling a little more confident. And I didn't really have that. So I didn't know, I probably took a lot of steps that I could have avoided in the beginning. But one of the toughest things was just having to just give everything up. Like we had the cars got to go, the place we lived in had to go. We had to go all in just to really bootstrap and focus on this before we got to a place where we were able to raise any money.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you feel like Moonlight was something where you, like, when you created it, was it instant this is going to be a hit, or was it like something where you're like, what, we need to like kind of push it more or do whatever? What was going on in your head? Did you know it was a hit?
Yeah, I knew it the minute I saw that lady do that photo the same way I had done that in the same night. And I went home, I actually started to design a prototype. Like I knew in that instant, I'm like, this is going to be big. Because at the time, social media hadn't really, it was just picking up. Instagram was getting was just taking off. Snapchat was just starting. So it was like, I'm like, everyone needs this. I mean, content is king and queen, so to speak. So it's like, so you need to have some sort of light. And I had filmed enough, commercials, enough videos, and I had known that every time people would ask me a question, why does your video look cleaner than this video, for example? And I'm like, oh, I lit it this way. And I'm like, well, if you can take that same sort of concept and make it portable and you can take it with you, then your content's always going to be dope. So I knew from that minute, I was like, it's going to be, I just had to convince everyone else.
I know, right? And that's a struggle for itself. Like, that's a big step. Do you have any other products in mind? Like, what are you doing next? Is there a new product? Is there something that you're thinking of or in the prototype stage?
Yeah, so there is the next iteration of this is going to be pretty powerful. I can't share too many details. We try and keep things pretty close to the chest, but just know it's going to be something that's going to be really special to what's happening, as far as content creation goes. When you really think about, Instagram, I follow you on Instagram and, I see your content. I love your content. And it's like, and then you think about the stuff people are sharing. It's some of these curated moments that are really polished and look great. And I think that's important for social media to give ourselves a sense of who we are or who we want to inspire. But then there's the other side of that where it's like the lives, the stories. That's as real as it gets, right? And I think the next wave of that is going to be so instrumental to not only just e-commerce and currency for social media and social currency, but like how we actually tell those stories and how we vividly light them and to create these moments and emotions is going to be so impactful. So our products are really going to line up with that.
Right. You have a partnership with Diddy's Revolt TV.
Yeah.
What are the episodes about? What were you guys, what's the content about for Revolt?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So it's one of those things where Diddy's and his network, and I love that whole network because they talk about a lot of culturally relevant things. Right now, they're talking a lot about the Black Lives Matter movement. It was really to capture some of celebrities and people being in their homes and kind of checking in on them, right? Like, what are these guys actually doing at the moment?
Right.
And just catching up with some of these celebrities that, you get to see behind the scenes of people, right? You're like looking in the back of their living room, like, okay, what's going on there? And what's going on behind the camera? And that was one of the things that we were able to do with that partnership. And it's still ongoing. And, we want to do some really epic things, not only with Revolt, but with a lot of other brands that we're and are going to be doing some stuff with pretty soon.
Yeah, so that's amazing. You're a family guy and stress about making time to spend with them. Why is it so important, and what do you look for in days like that? Like for a family guy like you, because obviously you want to make sure you have time for your business and for your family. What is the importance of that?
Yeah. Oh man, having a calendar for one, just scheduling everything. It's tough. I'm not gonna, sit here and pretend it's easy. It's hard. When you're working on a business, it becomes just your every part of your being. And I think for me, it was letting my family into that whole idea of what I was doing. Not only just instead of going and working in isolation, I let them see it. And I think it's important for just kids in general to see that kind of hustle in their parents. Because something about it, even if you kind of look at it and go, oh, that's cool. Later on down the road, you sort of grow up and remember, I remember seeing my dad do this. You know what I mean? Or my mom do this. And so I think it's really important for them to see it. So even when I can't necessarily spend full time, with them, I try and be in the moment and be working and bring my sons and sit down with me and just watch what I'm doing and just let's look at it and see what are you working on? What's this about? So I think that's really important, but scheduling the time is actually crucial. Just put it in your calendar and just block off a set of time where you just do not touch your phone. Just be present in the moment. Don't look away, because I think, as entrepreneurs, we kind of get stuck to this and you're like having a conversation with someone.
And it's so important because, family is everything at the end of the day. And you're doing all this for your family, right?
Yeah.
So I always, tell my audience and everybody, like, make sure that your family gets the attention they need, and you will even, you will drive, your system will be so much better because you have that subconscious where you're like, I'm okay because I know my family's okay, and I know, they got their time and we got cool memories in the process of creating amazing businesses, like you said, So I think that's amazing that you stress about, making sure that you have that time for your family. So I totally I
Totally.
love that you do that. And right now I wanted to talk to you about the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's been so amazing, and I'm so happy, and I think it's about time. I was talking to this about this topic with another guest as well, and I just said it's about time. Like this movement, you know, on this scale, on this unity, you know, with everyone, hasn't happened yet, and I just think, you know, it's overdue. So I'm really happy that it's happening. Tell us a little bit more about your personal experiences. You are there, we aren't. So I want to hear from someone like you, and I want to hear, you know, what's your involvement?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it was, you know, it's a lot of this sort of systemic, you know, racism and things have been going on in this country for a while. And, you know, and I got to experience it because, again, I like I mentioned, when I came back from Africa, I got to go to an all-white school in New Hampshire. So I saw it firsthand, but I also saw really good also firsthand. I think a lot of times people just aren't educated. If you look at our history books here, it's like it's telling one story. It's not telling our story as part of that narrative, you know, or anyone else's story at that, not just Black people, just other cultures. A lot of people just sort of get pushed on the outside, and I think that's just not okay. So, you know, when all this started, I'll say, you know, I've always been conscious of seeing all of the different police violence going on with, you know, our people. But Ahmaud Arbery was the first one where I think people kind of had that twitch reaction of like, wait a minute, you know, and then George Floyd happens, and it's like, you know, and Breonna Taylor, and it's like, okay, George Floyd really, I think, was the catalyst because it was so long. And I think in those minutes of watching that video, I think all of our traumas were brought back to the surface on another degree, because I think even for me, I think about the time when I was pulled over with my cousin in the car, and we were doing nothing. We were actually just going to the post office. My aunt had sent us, and 6 police cars pull up behind us at gunpoint, tell us to put the keys down. You know, I'm calm, and for me, I had that conversation with my mom. When you get pulled over, hands where they can see them, don't look at them, you know, look straight in their eyes, talk calmly, you know, don't talk like your street voice got to go away. You know, you got everything changes. Your whole demeanor has to change. And I remember thinking, please let my cousin not do anything crazy, because he never had that chat. So I'm just telling him, I'm just trying to calm him down, because, you know, and then come to find out it was, you guys fit the description of a car we're looking for. So that those traumas for me, even in that moment, as I was watching that video, I think the traumas came up. So I think what happened for a lot of Black people is like the traumas that they had seen from other killings, or the traumas that they themselves have experienced, just came full circle. And then it was like, nah, enough is enough. You know, we now have to do something about this completely. And it was really great to sort of watch people just come together, you know, Black people, white people, you know, Spanish, Latino, you know, people who are Latino and Latina, and, you know, Middle Eastern, Arab, like, it doesn't matter. Everywhere around the world, we're coming together and just, and just fighting for this cause.
What I keep reminding people is that us fighting, all of us, right? All the races coming and fighting for the Black Lives Matter cause, and for the cause in general of racism, right? Because we all face it, and different races face different racism, right? But it happens to a lot of us, and that's the issue. That's why for us, for everyone, we're fighting for the same cause, and it's one message, you know, at the end of the day. And the real reason, I mean, obviously, the George Floyd video was just so real, right? It was, we're watching this, all of us are just traumatized just watching a video, you know. Now imagine the families that are attached to George Floyd. Imagine his children. So you know, the list goes on and on and on. And for us, I mean, that's one video, right? And how many videos do we get to see? Maybe now more than, you know, before, but we still don't get to see the real amount of abuse and, you know, of racism, because that's just in the masses. Like, yours wasn't captured on video, right? So there's so much stuff that people go through on a daily, and we don't see that. So for some people who are unfortunately, you know, not so educated on this topic, they need to see a video to understand, right? So for me, I like to explain it to people and try to make them understand that listen to these stories, because imagine yourself, put yourself in the shoes of people that went through these experiences, and just try to understand. And automatically, I mean, if you're human, I would assume that, you would understand and that you would go and fight for this cause, because that cause can be, you're fighting for your children, for your future grandchildren, your families, your relatives, your friends. You are somehow, whoever you are going to have a connection to someone who might struggle with issues like that, right? Give me a little bit more information of how you are personally involved with the Black Lives Matter movement and what you're doing to, help the movement in general.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that people are doing, and I think it's just pretty incredible to watch. Just from people being out there on the streets, protesting and getting their message forward. For me, I really started to think, like, what can I do from my perspective to help move the needle forward around systemic racism? And in entrepreneurship, it's pretty rampant, right? You don't hear a lot about Black founders getting to that next level of building companies. And a lot of that has to do with lack of funding, right? You get a lot of these founders who don't get funded, or they get little funding, whereas their counterparts who are not Black are getting a lot of funding for the same sort of things. We always end up working so hard. If I show up to a meeting, meetings try and ask for investment, looking like I look right now with the baseball hat on, and it's like, oh, he's not serious. I need to have a suit on for people to take me seriously. Whereas you go to other Silicon Valley founders, flip-flops, right? They walk in a room with flip-flops, and it's like, oh, that's normal, that's natural. They should do that, and it's not okay for us. So I think there's just this sort of thing that we've always been fighting. And for me, I felt the best thing that I can do is try and bring awareness to that, and actually try and help, my fellow brothers and sisters who are in entrepreneurship get that attention that they deserve, get the funding they deserve, and be a part of all those conversations as well. Because I think ownership really matters. If you think about the history of the United States, is from slavery on, we never got a sense of ownership. Everything we had was taken away. And then everything we wanted to create, all the hurdles were put in place to make sure we don't get it. So now we're in a state where it's like, okay, the playing field feels even, but it really isn't, because now we're trying to build something for ourselves, and it feels like you can't let you have that much, and a lot of times I feel there's not a lot of examples of entrepreneurs for young Black kids to look at and go, wow, I could be that. There's a lot of examples of ball players. There's a lot of examples of NFL players, a lot of musicians, you know what I mean? A lot of people in that space. But when you think about like entrepreneurship, no one's going, oh, I want to be like that. There's a few people, Damon John, a few others, Smith, but not a lot. So I think we need to really give the Black entrepreneur the opportunity to really shine, create their products, fail, learn from their failures, create something new. And then I think once that wealth and that sort of ecosystem is really built out, then a lot of other kids from poor neighborhoods are going to look at that and go, yeah, I will take a chance on that, because I feel that's a path for me to be able to create something. And that wealth will build generational wealth and more generational wealth. And then from there, we'll actually have an even playing field. But until then, it's just sort of chasing our tails. And I think that's part of the problem. So that's what I want to see sort of happen for the entrepreneurs. Now, I know there's a lot of other things that everyone could be doing. I just think the thing that matters in this movement is doing what can actually impact for yourself. I'm not going to make a lot of impact going to be speaking at a rally, because that's not my thing. There are very good people out there that are good at speaking at rallies and pushing the message forward.
How does one get in touch with you if they wanted to, get some help with their business? Or how do you have a platform, email? How does one, for our viewers, for whoever wants to get some advice or kind of follow your steps, how can they get in touch? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, Instagram is my place. I live on Instagram. I share a lot about videos. I love the idea of doing that, and I think when I started the business, for me, it was mainly about, okay, great product, yes, but what will this do for my community? What would this do for a kid somewhere who looks like me? Because I remember I told you in the beginning, I looked everywhere for somebody who was like me, who I could go to and ask questions. There was no one. So I think we owe it to ourselves to do that. And if people want to find me, they can find me on Instagram at Edemante, Edemante, is the best source to find me. And I share a lot about the journey, the ups, the downs, the realness of it all. You'll see it all there.
I want to play a little game with you before we say goodbye.
All right.
It was amazing talking to you about these topics, to be honest. Very inspirational. I love hearing from businessmen like yourself, entrepreneurs like yourself, and I only wish you all the best with your new products and can't wait to get one. You need to send me one, right?
You got it. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Come on, bro. All right. Let's play this game, Would You Rather, okay? We're going to start with question number 1. Would you rather only be able to shout or only be able to whisper?
Ooh. I don't know, man. I'm loud. I'm going to shout.
You're going for a shout?
Yeah.
You're definitely going to get your message across that way. Would you rather live your life without music or without television?
Ooh, without television.
Television, right?
Yeah, music is a soundtrack of our lives.
Exactly, music is life. Would you rather hear a comforting lie or uncomfortable truth?
Uncomfortable. As much as I would love the other one, but I love the truth. So I think it's much better if people just tell it to you like it is. Rip the bandage off. It is what it is. Right? Yeah.
The truth is always better than a lie. I have to admit too, I would go with that.
Yeah.
Any minute. Would you rather live underwater or live underground?
I mean, Aquaman seems like he's got nice digs down there, so.
That was crazy, bro.
Yeah, I mean, underwater, I feel like there's just so much undiscovered underwater, and it would be kind of cool to just be like, oh, look, what is that? I just saw a new breed of whatever. I think underwater.
I agree. I like underwater too. Would you rather have your own theme park or your own zoo?
I'm going to say theme park because, I had a chance again to live in Africa, and I think animals should just be like where they're at. Go find them where they're at and get to explore them that way.
Right.
So I'm going to say theme park.
I love that. Awesome, bro. Thank you so much for being on the show.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much for inspiring the youth and inspiring people of all races and all colors. You're doing an amazing job. Keep doing what you're doing. We want to see more of it.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll get you back once you have a new product and are ready to announce it. All right.
Awesome. Sounds good to me.
Amazing. And for you guys, whoever is listening to the audio version only, please make sure you check out the visuals on YouTube. Uncut with S1 is our channel. And yeah, if you're watching it on YouTube and want to listen to audio versions, you can find us on Anghami, Spotify, and Apple Music. Thank you so much for everyone tuning in. Stay tuned for another episode of Uncut with S1. Take care.